Long before nuclear weapons or world wars, microscopic invaders rewrote the fate of empires, emptied cities, and redrew the map of civilization. They came without warning, striking rich and poor alike, turning markets into morgues and prayers into silence. From the plague ships of medieval Europe to the eerily empty streets of 2020, pandemics have shaped history more than kings or generals. Long before the Black Death terrified Europe, another plague struck with a force that few remember today. Let's go back to the year 541 AD. The glittering Byzantine Empire was at its height under Emperor Justinian III. Constantinople bustled with merchants, mosaics, and dreams of reuniting the Roman world. Then rats came ashore. Fleas carried a microscopic killer, Yersinia pestis. Ships that once brought silk and grain now ferried death. Fever, delirium, and grotesque swellings, buboes, spread from house to house. Within a single year, the Plague of Justinian claimed tens of millions of lives, possibly half the population of Europe and the Mediterranean basin. The empire was paralyzed. Farms lay empty, soldiers deserted, and tax revenues collapsed. Some historians argue that this plague stopped Justinian's dream of resurrecting the Roman Empire and indirectly opened the path to the rise of Islam a century later, and it never fully left. For 2 centuries, the disease flared again and again, each time erasing another chunk of humanity. It's haunting to imagine. Incense-filled churches echoing with desperate prayers, bodies stacked on ships and tossed into the sea, the capital of the Christian world reduced to silence. The Plague of Justinian is proof that the greatest empires can be humbled by something too small to see. But this was only the opening act. 8 centuries later, the same bacterium returned with a vengeance so unforgettable it earned a name that still sends chills through time. The year is 1347. A mysterious death ship drifts into the Sicilian port of Messina. Sailors lie dead or dying, their bodies marked by black boils. It is the beginning of the Black Death, the most infamous pandemic in recorded history. In just 5 years, Yersinia pestis slaughtered an estimated 75 to 200 million people across Europe, Asia, and North Africa. Entire villages vanished. Priests refused last rites. Families abandoned their own sick to survive. In cities like Florence and London, carts piled high with corpses rolled through the streets, bells tolling day and night. But this horror did more than kill. It reshaped society. With so many peasants dead, labor suddenly had value. Wages rose, feudalism cracked. Art and literature turned dark and questioning. Superstition exploded. Pogroms targeted Jews, while flagellants whipped themselves in public squares seeking divine mercy. The Black Death's shadow still lingers. It changed how Europe thought about disease, mortality, and even economics. Without it, the Renaissance and the end of the medieval order might have arrived centuries later. The plague was not just a catastrophe. It was a brutal accelerator of change. Yet humanity's struggle with microscopic invaders didn't stop in the Middle Ages. Another killer, this time a virus, would accompany explorers across oceans and devastate entire civilizations. If the Black Death shook Europe, smallpox remade the world. Caused by the variola virus, it terrorized humanity for at least 3,000 years. Mummies from ancient Egypt bear its telltale scars. In Asia and Europe, it was a recurring nightmare, but its most shattering chapter began in the 15th and 16th centuries. When European explorers crossed the Atlantic, they unknowingly carried smallpox with them. Indigenous peoples of the Americas had no immunity. In some regions, up to 90% of native populations died within a single generation. Empires like the Aztec and Inca collapsed as much from invisible microbes as from Spanish steel. In North America, entire villages were emptied before colonists even arrived. Smallpox spared no class. Monarchs and beggars alike bore its pitted scars. In the 18th century, it killed about 400,000 Europeans every year, including rulers such as Tsar Peter II of Russia and Queen Mary II of England. Yet smallpox also sparked one of medicine's greatest triumphs. In 1796, Edward Jenner developed the first successful vaccine after observing that milkmaids who caught cowpox seemed immune. His experiment, injecting an 8-year-old boy with material from a cowpox sore, ignited the science of vaccination. Nearly 2 centuries later, a massive global campaign led by the World Health Organization declared smallpox eradicated in 1980, the only human disease ever wiped out completely. From unstoppable killer to eradicated foe, smallpox shows how human ingenuity can eventually outpace even our oldest enemies. But the 20th century had more nightmares waiting, swift, invisible, and terrifyingly modern. The First World War is grinding to a bloody close. Soldiers are weary, trenches are mud and misery. Then an unseen enemy joins the battle: influenza. Misleadingly called the Spanish flu, Spain simply reported it openly. This H1N1 virus circled the globe in mere months. It infected an estimated 1/3 of the world's population and killed between 50 and 100 million people, far more than the war itself. What made it uniquely terrifying was whom it struck. Instead of the very old and very young, the virus often killed healthy adults in their 20s and 30s, overwhelming lungs with a sudden cytokine storm. Hospitals overflowed, coffins ran out, and cities like Philadelphia saw thousands die in a single week. The Spanish flu changed public health forever. Quarantines, mask mandates, and coordinated medical reporting became essential tools. It also reshaped geopolitics, weakened armies, accelerated the end of World War I, and influenced everything from treaty negotiations to the course of revolutions. Yet the world moved on astonishingly fast. Within a few years, memories faded. By the time of the Roaring Twenties, people wanted jazz and new beginnings, not reminders of mass graves. But the virus never really left. Its genetic descendants still circulate in seasonal flus today. A century later, when another novel coronavirus emerged, those old lessons suddenly mattered again. In late 2019, reports of a mysterious pneumonia surfaced in Wuhan, China. Within weeks, flights carried the virus to every continent. COVID-19, caused by the SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus, became the first true pandemic of the hyper-connected digital age. Unlike past plagues, information and misinformation spread just as fast as the pathogen. Lockdowns, social distancing, and face masks became everyday vocabulary. By early 2025, over 6 million deaths were confirmed worldwide, though the real toll is likely higher. Economies shrank, mental health crises deepened, and entire ways of working shifted toward remote and hybrid models. COVID-19 also accelerated scientific breakthroughs. Messenger RNA vaccines developed in record time proved that modern biotechnology could respond to a global threat at unprecedented speed. Yet it exposed deep inequalities between rich and poor countries and even between neighborhoods within the same city. Will COVID-19 ever be over? Probably not in the absolute sense. Like the flu, it may settle into an endemic pattern, occasionally mutating and causing new waves. Its long-term impact, however, is already clear. Supply chains reimagined, healthcare systems strengthened or questioned, and a generation forever marked by masks, testing swabs, and lost loved ones. From Justinian's plague to COVID-19, the lesson echoes across centuries. Humanity is resilient, but never untouchable. Microbes evolve. So must we. The story of pandemics is far from finished. It is a mirror showing how fragile and how inventive we truly are. Before you close this chapter of history, take a moment to share it. Like, comment, and subscribe so more people can discover how invisible enemies have shaped our world, and so you don't miss the next journey through the hidden forces that still shape our lives.